Have you ever had déjà vu that felt too real to dismiss? Not the casual kind, but the kind where your body reacts before your mind does. Have synchronicities been stacking up so precisely they almost feel staged? Have you caught moments where reality seems to glitch, where time stretches or compresses, where a second feels loaded with meaning? If you've experienced that, you're not crazy, you're not broken, you're not too imaginative. You're perceiving something most people filter out. And if that realization ever made you feel isolated, like you can't talk about it without being labeled strange, there's a reason for that. You're operating at a different frequency. Here's the pattern no one explained to you. When quantum consciousness begins to surface, the subconscious mind stops passively consuming reality and starts interacting with it. That's when the hidden reality begins to leak through the cracks. Most people never notice. They're locked into habit, routine, predictability. But some people, maybe you start noticing anomalies. Moments that don't fit the official story of how reality is supposed to work. And science knows this is happening. It just doesn't know how to talk about it without tearing itself apart. Because buried inside quantum mechanics is a problem so disturbing that it's been quietly avoided for decades. A problem that suggests reality doesn't exist independently of observation. A problem that implies the observer effect isn't a metaphor, it's a mechanism. In controlled experiments first performed in the late 20th century, particles behaved differently depending on whether they were being observed. Not measured, observed. When no observer was present, reality remained in a probabilistic state spread out, undefined, vibrating as potential inside the quantum field. But the moment observation occurred, that wave collapsed into a single outcome. Reality didn't just reveal itself, it decided. That shouldn't be possible. And yet it keeps happening. This is where mainstream science gets uncomfortable. Because if consciousness plays a role in reality creation, then matter isn't fundamental. Meaning is, information is, awareness is. Several papers exploring this were rejected again and again. 14 rejections is one documented case. The stated reason, too metaphysical, not wrong, not disproven, just dangerous. Because once you accept that consciousness interacts with reality at a foundational level, everything changes. Time stops being linear. Causality becomes flexible. And those moments you thought were coincidences suddenly aren't. This is why spiritual awakening doesn't feel peaceful at first. It feels destabilizing, because your internal model of the world can't survive what you're starting to perceive. Your vibration shifts. Your frequency changes. And suddenly the old explanations don't work anymore. That's also why you may feel alone. It's not because you're superior. It's because you're tuned differently. A radio doesn't pick up every station at once. Neither does consciousness. And here's the part most people miss. The quantum field doesn't respond to your thoughts. It responds to coherence between thought, emotion, and attention. That's why intention without awareness fails. And why awareness without integration feels overwhelming. Something is interacting with you, not spiritually in the vague sense, scientifically in a way that has names, equations, and experimental data attached to it. But the implications are so radical that even physicists hesitate to follow them to their logical conclusion. Because if this is true, then reality isn't happening to you. It's happening through you. And that would mean those moments, the déjà vu, the impossible synchronicities, the sense that time bent just slightly around you, were never glitches at all. They were signals. Stay with me. This isn't for everyone. In the next part, we're going to look at the exact moment science almost crossed a line it couldn't uncross, and why what they found still echoes through your life right now. Stay with me. If something you heard just clicked internally, that's not accidental. You belong in this conversation. I want you to do one thing first. In the comments, share one synchronicity that still has no explanation. Be specific, time, place, what you felt. I'm reading every single one, not to judge, but to map patterns most people ignore. When you engage with this video, it doesn't boost ego. It feeds the algorithm, so this reaches others who've been quietly searching for the same answers. That's how this spreads. Not virality, recognition. And if you choose to subscribe, understand what that means. This isn't a channel. It's a space for minds operating on a different frequency. We're just getting started. What comes next will change how you interpret what's already happened to you. Quantum physics shattered the oldest assumption we ever lived by, the idea that reality exists independently of us. In 1801, Thomas Young performed the original double-slit experiment, proving light behaved like a wave. But a century later, when detectors were added, the wave vanished and particles appeared. Same setup, different outcome. Observation changed behavior. Reality didn't reveal itself. It reorganized. This wasn't philosophy. It was measured, repeated, verified. In 1978, John Archibald Wheeler pushed it further with the delayed choice experiment, showing that a particle's behavior could be decided after it had already passed the slits. Cause followed effect. Time bent. The quantum field didn't care about sequence, only perception. If this feels unsettling, that's because it connects directly to you. Those synchronicities that arrive too precisely. The déjà vu that lands with emotional weight. The sense that parallel outcomes brush against your awareness. These aren't fantasies. They're what consciousness expansion feels like when the subconscious mind starts interfacing with a hidden reality instead of a scripted one. Entanglement made it worse. Two particles, separated by distance, responding instantly as one system. No signal, no delay, just shared state. Einstein called it spooky action, yet it holds. Meaning energy and information ignore space, and frequency matters more than location. A Nobel Prize winner eventually admitted the quiet part out loud. Eugene Wigner stated that consciousness is fundamental to quantum mechanics, not an afterthought. Matter depends on awareness, not the other way around. But this isn't taught in school because it collapses control structures built on predictability. If you felt out of sync, it's because your vibration shifted. You started perceiving reality creation instead of consuming it. I want you to document this. In the comments, describe one moment where perception broke your old model of reality. Details matter. This isn't engagement. It's pattern recognition among minds tuned to the same frequency. And this is only the surface, because what they discovered next makes this look almost tame. In 1961, John Archibald Wheeler proposed a question that sounded insane even to his peers. What if a choice made in the present could decide how a particle behaved in the past? At the time, it was dismissed as philosophical provocation. Then, in 1999, at the University of Maryland, the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment was performed. The result was precise and repeatable. When information about a particle's path was erased after detection, interference patterns returned, as if the particle had never chosen a path at all. Measurement in the present rewrote behavior already recorded. Not metaphorically, literally. This means the quantum field does not obey common sense time. Perception reaches backward. Reality creation is not a fixed timeline, but a negotiation. If that unsettles you, it should, because it explains why certain moments in your life feel retroactively meaningful. Why a synchronicity today reframes a memory from years ago. Why déjà vu arrives with emotional certainty. Your consciousness expansion isn't imagination. It's your subconscious mind interacting with probability across time, tuned by frequency and vibration rather than sequence. Entanglement confirms it. Two particles share one state regardless of distance, responding as a single system. Energy and information ignore space, and now time. Quantum consciousness isn't local. Neither are you. That sense that parallel realities rush against awareness during a spiritual awakening is not poetic language. It's what perception feels like when the observer effect becomes personal. Nobel Prize winner Eugene Wigner admitted that consciousness must be fundamental to quantum mechanics. Not emergent, fundamental. But this isn't taught in school because it destabilizes a model built on control and predictability. If you've lived a moment where timing felt impossible, describe it in the comments with details. Not for metrics, but to recognize patterns among minds operating on the same frequency. Because this is where it turns darker and stranger. Because this is where it turns darker and stranger. Here's what terrifies materialist scientists. Every equation, every law of physics, every model we use to describe reality is written in mathematics. Yet mathematics does not exist in physical space. You can't touch it. You can't weigh it. It has no mass, no location, no energy signature. It exists only in mind. In 1935, Erwin Schrödinger formalized the wave function, showing that physical systems exist as probabilities until observation. Decades later, experiments confirmed that the quantum field behaves like abstract information awaiting perception. This is why the double-slit experiment keeps collapsing into certainty only when observed. Matter follows meaning. Energy follows awareness. If that unsettles you, it should, because it mirrors what you felt. The synchronicities that arrive when you stop forcing outcomes. The déjà vu that feels like memory leaking from another branch of reality. The sense that parallel possibilities rush against perception during spiritual awakening. This is quantum consciousness becoming personal. Your subconscious mind is no longer just reacting. It's participating in reality creation through frequency and vibration. Entanglement proves separation is an illusion. Two particles share one state regardless of distance, responding instantly. Information ignores space, and mathematics ignores matter, which means the hidden reality beneath physics is mental, not material. In 1931, Max Planck said it plainly, "I regard consciousness as fundamental. Matter is derivative from consciousness." But they don't teach you that in school because it dismantles control built on predictability. If you've experienced a moment where reality responded to your awareness, write it in the comments with details. This isn't engagement. It's how a tribe of awakened perception finds itself. Because if consciousness is fundamental, then death, time, and separation don't mean what we were taught. And this is where everything changes. Because once you see this, you can't unsee it. Something has already shifted. What started as physics quietly turned into recognition. We move from experiments and equations to a realization that doesn't stay in the mind. It lands in the body. Reality stops feeling solid. Time feels less rigid. And the strange sense you've carried for years finally has context. This wasn't a random collection of ideas. It was a sequence. A breadcrumb trail through quantum consciousness, the quantum field, and the observer effect, all pointing to the same uncomfortable truth. The reason this feels intense is because nothing new was added to you. Nothing was upgraded. What's happening is remembering. Consciousness expansion is not gaining power, it's recovering it. Your subconscious mind was always capable of collapsing possibilities into experience. You were simply trained to forget, trained to outsource perception, trained to believe reality creation belonged to something outside you. That forgetting had a purpose. If lately you've felt off, restless, unsatisfied with surface explanations, that isn't failure, it's frequency. Your vibration is changing. Spiritual awakening rarely feels peaceful at first. It feels destabilizing because the old map no longer matches the terrain. You're not malfunctioning. You're recalibrating perception to match a hidden reality that was always there. Feel that in your chest. The acceleration isn't anxiety, it's recognition. Here's the part that rearranges everything. If consciousness collapses reality, then time is not a straight line. Separation is not fundamental, and death cannot mean what we were taught. That doesn't need to be explained yet. It only needs to be felt. Because once that implication lands, control narratives fall apart. This knowledge has always been suppressed for one simple reason. Minds that know they shape reality cannot be managed the same way. You didn't find this by accident. Alignment brought you here. Thousands are waking simultaneously, tuning into the same frequency, and this space is becoming a meeting point. You are not alone, even if it felt that way before now. In the comments, write this phrase exactly. I am the observer, not as a slogan, but as an act. A public declaration focuses intention. Consciousness responds to coherence. This isn't engagement. It's a ritual. Say it and notice what happens next. What comes after this depends on the choice you make in the next few seconds. Something irreversible has already begun. Sit with it, breathe, and when you're ready, we go further. Something already changed while you were watching this. You can feel it. A subtle shift in perception, a quiet reordering. Things won't go back to how they were before because quantum consciousness doesn't retreat once it's activated. Awareness expands and the field responds. Now anchor it. In the comments, write one line. I am the observer, or consciousness creates, or I see beyond the veil. This isn't engagement. A public declaration collapses intention. It stabilizes frequency. It feeds the quantum field this channel is building, drawing in other minds resonating at the same level of consciousness expansion. If this matters to you, signal it. Liking this video tells the algorithm to surface it to others who are quietly searching for the same hidden reality. That's not vanity. That's collective access to knowledge. It was never meant to spread easily. And if you subscribe, understand the commitment. This channel isn't entertainment. It's a space for spiritual awakening through science, where each video goes deeper, layer by layer, into what reality actually is. Next, we go further than most people are ready for. They finally discovered God's fingerprint in quantum mechanics. This will destroy everything you believe. Your consciousness brought you here. The quantum field is listening. What happens now is your choice.